tonight is a man who's been the stalwart of the left for many years. His early career in the Transport and General Workers Union and the Workers' Party, and he's moved along from there to the present day, where he is now the most popular party political leader in the country, with a personal approval rating of 45%. He's the leader of the Labour Party. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Eamon Gilmore. Come on in.
There's the leprechauns.
They're the two leprechauns. There's a crock of gold under there somewhere.
They're not constituents, are they?
They were. Dunleary?
Not me, I'm a tax exile. Don't you worry about that.
I'm coming after you.
Eamon Gilmore, Neil was just asking, because there is a serious side to him every now and then, how high can taxes go?
Well, I think you have to have a balance in that. The Labour Party has suggested that there should be a top rate of 48%.
Jesus, Eamon.
Max. Hold on, wait a sec.
It's on people who earn over 100,000, you're not that good.
But, no, I mean, if you look at the audience, right? Notice the way Andrew Maxwell didn't really respond to that. There's people out in the audience. What future do many students here have in the next 2 years in this country?
I mean, the key to getting out of the economic problem is getting people back to work. And I think there are a number of things that have to be done to do that. First of all, I think that the PRSI rate for employers, I think, has to be reduced. I think there has to be an exemption from PRSI for employers who are taking on new employees. Secondly, I think there are a number of things that we can do now, because I think we have to look at where we're going to be in a number of years' time. A number of things that can be done now. For example, there's been a decline in construction. There's a whole lot of schools that need to be built. There are hospitals that need to be built. Now is the opportunity to do that. There are young people who are coming out of college. Engineers, for example, architects, again, can be put to work on the design of the kind of infrastructure that we need.
What would you in the Labour Party do? Would you borrow a huge amount now to roll out all this stuff?
I think we have to deal with the problem in the public finances now. I don't go for this idea that you can postpone it out to 2017. I think it has to be faced up to.
So you don't agree with the ICTU on this?
Not on that point. I think that the way it has to be dealt with, though, is not by cutting everything. What the government want to do is they want to get $4 billion this year, but they want to do it largely all by cutting. If you do that, you will, first of all, reduce the amount of money that's going into the high street, reduce the amount of money that people are spending in shops. That drops revenue, it hits jobs and so on. So you have to do a mix of reducing public expenditure and doing some on taxation. Now, there is scope, in my opinion, for reduction in the public sector pay bill, but I think the way to do that is by achieving reforms and economies in the public sector rather than by across-the-board cuts.
Can I just ask you, you're saying about the present government, I don't understand it myself, right, but Fianna Fáil is like this you know, shitty boyfriend who spends all your money, constantly lets you down, and doesn't turn up when you want a date with them. You know, when you need him, and you need a hug from him, you need a bit of loving from him. He's not there for you, but you still go back. We still go back to them all the time. Like, does that wreck your head that you're the really nice best friend that doesn't get the girl?
Well, I've never had a boyfriend, so.
I know what I was saying there, but can I answer that question?
Are we including like maybe a wild weekend in Tremor?
I think
I've seen the way you look at Brendan Howland.
The problem with Fianna Fáil was the double timing. You know, the two timing with the builders, with the developers. I mean, they puffed air into the property bubble. They followed all of these policies where they were tax incentivising people to get into property more and more. I mean, one of the things, I know, David, you're an economist, but one of the things I could never understand was as house prices went up, the answer was we were going to keep increasing supply. Now, I would have understood that if you increase supply, the prices will stabilise at some point. What happened was house prices kept going up because they kept tax incentivising property. Why don't we look at things differently? I mean, we've over 400,000 people who are out of work in this country. Every person who's out of work is costing the state an average of about €20,000 between social welfare payments that's being paid out and taxes that are not being taken in. Why don't we use that money to get people into education, into training, into work experience programs? Why don't we take, for example, people who are coming out of college, We've a huge amount of work to do in literacy, for example. Let's take literacy. We have a huge problem of literacy in this country.
I'm assuming
to solve the literacy problem, you have to sit down one-to-one. People say, where are you going to get the money to do this? Where are you going to get the money to do that? Nobody seems to be bothered about the billions at all that is going to have to go in to bail out the banks. Let's look at
why.
We seem to have a problem in this country with investing in people. We have no difficulty. We'll invest in roads, we'll invest in infrastructure, we'll put money into banks, but when it comes to the needs of people, we seem to have a blockage about investing in people. Now, I look at what's coming out of college.
Hold on. The money has to come from somewhere. Let's talk a second. We're going to bail out the banks, or we not, right? So, no, honestly, because I'm getting a little impatient with all this. This is a lot of great political chat, but you've come on this, irreverent show so you can connect it with this generation, right? I'm not following what you're saying for the last couple of minutes. Right? It's not good. Right? I'm drifting off here. You're telling me, well, let's invest in the fight. Mate, look, either we spend, like you said, 30% of our treasure in this country that we've earned, right? Our national treasure on bailing out these banks. Or we aren't, and we invested in these things. But it has to be spent. And if we're not putting in the banks, then we put it in that, in which case we let the banks fail. Are we going to let the banks fail?
No, I don't think we can let the banks fail.
Well, then where are we getting the money to educate these people from? There's only so much gold we have.
You're already spending the money. You're already spending the money on paying people to do nothing. You are spending the money on social welfare payments. You would be better spending that money on getting people back into education, training, work experience, building up their skills, so that they're ready for employment.
Is there going to be any compliance issue with this? Right? Say if somebody does want to sit on a scratcher for a couple of years, are you going to tell them that they have to go get retrained?
There's a carrot and stick approach that has to be used to
what's
everything
the stick?
like that.
Tell me the stick, man. You're going to say to people who are basically your core constituency, the urban working class, right, we're cutting your dough. Are you going to say that?
The urban working class want to work. Most people that I meet...
Jesus, look, that's a platitude,
hold on, it's not a platitude.
It is a platitude.
The people that I meet people who tell me they do not want to be on the dole.
Let's not talk about the good people.
Want to be on the dole.
What about the bad people who don't want to work?
There's a requirement to get any dole payment that you have to be available for work or available for education or whatever, and if somebody doesn't comply with that, you don't pay them.
I mean, it's just the political speak. It's so alienating.
No, I think we have to talk in very frank terms with each other, and I try to do that. Now, maybe sometimes it doesn't succeed, and if it doesn't succeed, if I'm not making myself clear, then ask the question and I'll answer it.
Have you ever sniffed a marker?
No.
The Bank of Ireland announced, right, that it lost nearly €1 billion in 6 months. Think about that, 1 billion in 6 months, and that money was put in
by me,
by Neil in huge amounts, by everybody here, and was put in last April, and it's gone.
Yes.
Why don't you just
let a bank fail?
Let one of them fail and wise up to the fact that the more we keep these things
alive... Is this the thing, right? You can't say this. This is one of those things that, not you, but I mean the entire political class can't go, let a bank fail. Right? It has become this heresy, right? Everybody else who screwed up their job loses their job. Even people who didn't screw up their job lose their job. But these sacred cows of the modern economy, these banks aren't allowed to fail. And it doesn't make any sense to any of us.
Yeah, but don't...
But that's what I'm saying, why does it? But nobody, you said it yourself, you wouldn't let them fail either. Why? Why do they get socialism for the rich and we get capitalism for the poor?
Well, last year when the banking crisis first happened, the Labour Party was the only party that says, no, we're not going with the guarantee. I mean, that was the point at which the option was there to... No, sorry, David, hold on a second now. That was the time at which the option was there to let a bank go. Now, the guarantee was put in place, and we're stuck with that guarantee. We opposed the NAMA formula. We felt that it would be better to nationalise the two main banks temporarily, get their balance sheets cleaned up, restored to order, that would involve less risk for the taxpayer. That isn't the route that the government has gone, and that is why we have ended up with the taxpayer having to put up money after money after money that we should be using for other things in order to bail out the banks. There was a different way.
Okay, Eamon,
and if the Labour Party had been in government 12 months ago when the bank thing was being done, we would have dealt with it differently. But we are where we are now, and we've got to deal with
Eamon, can I ask
the banks as they are.
Let's say, for example, the government falls. You get into power with Fine Gael, quite likely, in the next couple of months. Not an outrageous thing. Would you then rescind the guarantee when it is up, which those of us who were thinking about it at the time thought, give us for 2 years, because in 2 years it gives you time to not have an orderly bank failure where deposits go. Right? I mean, if we'd done it last year, there would have been a run on banks, deposits would have disappeared. Now we have the guarantee, and you can say, okay, I can pick off that bank and that, Anglo-Irish Bank, I have no interest in saving that. It means nothing to me. You go to the people who lent money to them, who were private individuals, and you say, listen, lads, we're going to take this guarantee away and we'll negotiate with you now. Would you do that in the next 12 months? Because that's the only way we can get to what Max wants, and many thousands of people in Ireland want.
You would have to look at at each bank at that stage. You'd have to look at each.
Risk. That's what I mean. Look,
you can't.
Capitalism is risky. It's a risky business.
Right?
Capitalism is a risky business, and the nexus of all capitalism is the banking system.
No, but let me answer.
Why are we letting depositors?
No, let me answer.
We could do that.
Let me answer David's question. You can't. I can't make a kind of a blanket. We'd rescind the guarantee kind of answer like that in a television studio. You would have to look at the banking situation at that time and make the best decision in the public interest at that time.
But what is the difference, therefore, between you on the banks, right, with your position now, and the present government? If you got straight in, what difference would it make? Because this is what I come back to. What difference is it going to make? Because people want difference, but they can't really see it.
What is being done with the banks, in my view, is not easily reversible. And that is one of the big problems with it. That's one of the big problems with the whole NAMA architecture that's now being put in place, and it's one of the reasons why we have opposed it so strongly. But if that does go into place, then we will have to work with it. That's the reality.
You get voted in. Mm-hmm. The key issue, people will say, well, we don't want this banking thing, we're voting you in, we vote you in because we are fed up with this policy, and we think that people in this audience are going to be lumbered with huge tax bills for the next 20 years. You come in, are you going to say to us, well, we can't rescind it?
I'm saying it now, that once you put in place, and let's be clear about this, once the NAMA arrangement is put in place, in my opinion, it is going to be virtually impossible to rescind that.
Let's leave it there. That's it for this week. Thank you to our guests, Colin Fry early on, and of course Eamon Gilmore, and to our panellists, Andrew Maxwell, ladies and gentlemen.